Good afternoon, you all students. This time, at least, there was some relief that the questions were not from Hegel, Marx, Schopenhauer, and others. The topics have been only of two types. Either there are quotes, very often called the brainy quotes, and the proverbs. Those proverbs which are popular all over India in different languages. Yes, I am in an advantageous position because I have got 2 or 3 days to see the essay topics and then look for some resources here and there. But I can imagine the condition of those boys and girls who eagerly await the distribution of questions and then they are faced with the onerous task of just covering or answering the essay topics. Let us start. So, first I write the structure. This structure, I have told you that you have to start with introduction. There are many structures, many suggestions. My suggestion is that the second step or the second stage is elaboration. The third is analysis. Go into the deep. What are the real causes? Fourth is way forward, your suggestions. And the fifth is conclusion. As already I have told you, this and this are very, very important. So, we come on to the first topic, that is forests are the best case studies of for economic excellence. So, as far as this is concerned, I always advise you to prepare a rough. How will start this? Start with the green is soothing to the eyes. Then you elaborate, highly elaborate. So, on the one hand, you will take up economic development, and on the other hand, you will take up forest cover. At least in India, we can do it. And then go on to the developments in India. For example, the rate of growth, for example, there is this forest covers, all those. Then you go on to just the position now. What is the position now? And then we will analyze why forest cover is not up to the mark, and then we will give advice, and then we will go for the conclusion. Now, as far as this rough work is concerned, in your rough, since there is not much of a space, I have used limited words. You introduce this essay means, this does not mean that forest is a cause of economic development. This does not mean that economic development damages forests. This simply means that economic development has a marker in forest cover. It's a marker. So, the more there is forest cover, the more balanced economic growth is this, the more balanced economic development is this. So, naturally, we have to write that in the introduction, forests are very soothing to the eyes because green is the color which is very, very comfort zone for the eyes, not blue, not yellow, not this other colors, magenta or others, but this green is the best color for the eyes. After a very arduous week, after a very arduous month, after a very, very laborious 6 months, a person or a family may go to the jungle and he feels, and the parivar feels, and the family feels at ease, it feels comfort, it feels very much at home in the forest. If he or she happens to be in the forest, in the jungle, then really it is more pleasing, because then their insects are there, then the bushes are there, and if there is a chance they can see some rabbits also, if there is chance they can see some all on the trees also, if there is chance, and if it's a forest which is some dense forest, then they may have the look at the forest chicken and other forest birds, and their sounds when different birds, particularly some birds which are supposed to be the guards of the forest, the moment some unknown person, unknown entity enters the forest, they start shouting as if they are just making a sounds of warning, making the something, a threat has come to the forest. They are all very pleasing to the ears, very pleasing to the these nostrils, very pleasing to the eyes. Now, we must write that economic development without a forest cover is a half story. It's not a complete story, because forests are a complement to the development. Forests are a marker to the development. Forests indicate that yes, there has been a balanced development, there has been ecological balance. The whole question is not related to the total amount of ecological balance. We are seeing, this is not an essay topic on ecology, this is a topic as the marker. Forest is the marker of economic development. It is a marker of economic excellence. It is the marker of economic efficiency. So, naturally, the introduction should be that economic development is the best economic development which has an adequate forest cover in the country, which has an adequate forest cover in the society. As far as the story of the world is concerned, in the Western countries which are subject to ecological disasters, they have acid rains, extreme pollutions. Holland and Belgium have to stop the flying of cars for months together to prevent and to restrict the emission of these gases. But one thing is very important and very positive, that all the European countries have tried, including England, including Sweden, including Denmark, including Norway, including Finland, and even this Holland, which has tried to just wreck some land out of the sea, but they have tried to make it green. since the ecological imbalance is so negative that it is not enough. The very negative situation is in Latin American countries, the South American countries, where the Amazon forests are threatened by, on the one hand, by jungle fire, very often designed fires by the teak wood traders, by the teak wood multinational traders, not only in Brazil, but even in Argentina, even in Chile, even in this Paraguay. In all these countries, this thing has happened. These countries where the banana republics, where the backyard of USA was the backyard of the multinational corporations operating in USA, and their agents working in these Latin American countries have wreaked havoc with the forests. This has not happened to that extent in Africa, but even in Africa, the forests have been subject to exploitation by the multinational corporations. What is the story of India? In India, with the coming of the British, economic development nosedived. Everybody knows about the drain theory, about the multiple exploitation of Indian economy by the Britishers. It's a fact. But the Britishers did not rest only with this. The first forest policy in India was declared in 1894. 1894. This was the first forest policy. Acts are different and policies are different. The second policy was announced in 1952. The third policy was announced in 1988. Now, these policies, at least in the colonial time, the policy was for the protection of forests, no doubt. But what for this protection? For the use of British companies, for the use of the railways which had started in 1853. There was a huge need of the railway sleepers which can be provided. Now the sleepers are cement sleepers. In the meantime, the sleepers were of iron. But earlier the sleepers were of wood, and that too the sakua wood, the sal wood. And so there was huge exploitation of this. So this 1894 forest policy was for reserving the forest only for the British government, not for, yes, there were the princely states, they had their own protected and the hunting areas and hunting jungles. Since almost 1/4 of Indian territory was under the control of the princely states, so naturally it was a huge area, and this saved the forest in Madhya Pradesh, in Guna, in Rajasthan, in parts of Odisha. This saved the forest from denudation, from deforestation, just by indirect means. Now, it's a fact that there were many laws regarding forests. In 1927, there was a law not to, or just restrict the entry of even the tribes in that area. So, what happened? The tribes protested. And there were huge protests in present-day Jharkhand, in present-day Madhya Pradesh, in present-day Karnataka. There were huge protests against these laws in 1952. The enthusiasm of an independent state the Indian leaders thought we can do miracles. We are not capable of even producing the whimpers. But in 1952, we decided in the policy that from now on, we will aim to have a forest coverage of 33%. The reality was that at that time it was around 22%. It was around 22%. So again, an act was passed in 1980 that no forest should not be disturbed, and if any industry has to be opened in the forest area, there must be clearance on the part. There must be a clearance from the government, from the environmental ministry. So development must take care of forest. Development must take care of the ecological conditions. This was a condition with very good intentions they imposed it. In 1988, we became somewhat more prudent. And we have now crossed that landmark or that mark of Hindu rate of growth. By now we had already crossed the 3.5% growth rate, that Hindu growth rate, and in 1987, 1988, our growth rate had crossed almost 5%. It could not be maintained that way, but it was that. So naturally, we had again a law in 206. The law was, it is now Indian leaders, now the tribal leaders, now the general people living around the forest areas had become more sensitive to the question of forest. In 2006, the law was that those people who live in the forest itself, they will be settled that land. Number two, they will be able to use the forest products for their own interest. Number three, that the forest, some of the forest products would be for the benefit of those people who not only live in the jungle area or within the jungle, but around the jungle. A more balanced policy. But this forest policy, when we come to this analysis, go inside. What has happened? What are the three important causes that the forests are affected? Number one is human settlement. There is less of space in some of the areas where the industries, where the minerals or where these mines have been opened. After independence, one particular anthropologist, L.P. Vidyarthi, said, this is the tragedy of the tribes, that most of the mines have been opened in those areas where tribes live. It's a fact that the tribes have a particular relationship with the forest. For them, it is mother. For them, it is God. For them, it is the spirit. For them, it is their whole source of resources. They depend on the forest. So, in the analysis you write that number one is that the settlement or human settlement is encroaching on the forest. The second is that the commercial interests are depriving the tribes of their natural rights, of their natural control over or natural entitlement over the forest. One myth is there. The myth is of ecofeminism, that the female forces, after so many studies, now it has been proved. I will not name those scholars, but there are many who have said, no, this is a myth, There is nothing like ecofeminism, nothing like that the females are especially sensitive to the protection of forest. No, not at all. But tribes have a good relationship. Even in Hindu religion, there are many rins, and there is a rin towards the nature, rin towards the prakriti. And so, in Islam, there is a resistance that no harm should be done to the green trees. It's an injunction. It is a sunnah. It is an advice of the Prophet to its followers. Religion is never anti-forest. Religion is never anti-forest. But what is anti-forest? It is the commercial interests. It is the commercial interest. So, in 2006 laws, there have been by now 7 amendments, and the amendments are that if there is an industry, the amendment is if there is a hospital, the amendment is if there is a school, then the forest land can be used. Yes, there is a condition that with the approval of the Gram Sabha. Gram Sabhas are managed. Gram Sabhas are manipulated. Gram Sabha majorities are just managed by those people who have a vested interest. So, basically, as I told you, that there are 3 things which are harming the forests. There is one 4th thing also. In most of the areas where there is a very dense forest and there is a human population just nearby the forest, then there is a clash between the wild animal and the forest and the people. What happens in Jharkhand? What happens in Chhattisgarh? What happens in Odisha? What happens in Madhya Pradesh? The elephants, they never move in single 1, 2, 3. They move in group of 15, 16, 17, even sometimes 40 and 50. Now what happens? In all these states, Odisha has a law, Jharkhand has a law, this Madhya Pradesh has a law, Chhattisgarh has a law that if a house has been damaged by an elephant group, then it would be this much of compensation would be there. If the whole house has been, then the compensation is 50,000. So you write that in the way forward, what is this way forward? You suggest. What you will suggest? Number 1, my opinion, that the Agni Mitra or the Agni Veers, the 75% who would be just thrown out of the army after 4 years of service, they should be given a job of what? Of planting trees on a contract basis. This was done. Today, as far as the forest coverage today in 2022 is concerned, it is roughly around 24% all over India. Roughly. In some states, it's more than 30, but in some of the states, it is not even 10%. But the average is around 23-24%. We had some 10 years ago only 18%. How this increased? This increased because of a particular program. The program was those army personnel who have come out of the services or army services after the short service commission, they were employed as forest planters. They were employed as forest planters, and now Uttarakhand, earlier Uttar Pradesh, they experienced a very, very good result. In present day Jharkhand, there is a very good result. In Assam, there is a very good result of this tree plantation by the people who have come out of the short service commission. So naturally, the third advice would be that the tribes should be given the permission to have their rights in forest products. Don't deny them, don't deny them. You know that the Home Ministry's study found that there have been mainly two causes which have introduced and which have increased this left-wing extremism. One is the denial of forest rights to the tribes, and the second is the high and usurious interest rates charged by the Mahajans, charged by the traders in the jungle areas or in the tribal areas. Let the 2006 Act be fully implemented, and this should definitely give rise to forest area, this will give rise to forest covers. Now, when we conclude, it should be a very interesting conclusion that in India or the world over, now there is more concern for the protection and promotion of the forests. Many people, many governments, many institutions, many NGOs, many voluntary groups and some of the indigenous tribal groups in Africa have risen to the occasion that no, in no case we are going to damage these forest areas. It's also a fact that forests have been affected negatively in the last 200 years. Whether it is the first industrial revolution, whether it is the second industrial revolution or the third. In the fourth industrial revolution, probably now there is lesser chances of in this digital area to affect the forests, and that is why now the forests have been saved now, and there should be a very conscious attempt to just replant forest in all areas wherever it is possible. Forests should be worshipped. Forests should be just almost given a position of demigods, because they are not a cause of development, they are not a cause of human health, but they are definitely the markers of economic development, markers of economic affluence, and markers of economic efficiency. Long live the forest, long live the forest, long live the forest. You should try to conclude your essay with these words. Clear? So, now we just come on to this. So, the second essay is an essay by in defense of poetry, the words of the great romantic poet, the great, not Renaissance, rather it was an enlightened poet of Shelley. So, what Shelley says? Shelley says that poets are the unacknowledged regulators or legislators of the world. Unacknowledged, the legislators of the world. The meaning of the essay, the simple meaning is that the poets show the path when everybody fails, when the political leaders fail, when the military leaders fail, when the economic leaders or industrialists or the rich people or the rich businessmen fail, And when even the so-called community leaders fail, then the poets come to the rescue of humanity. They, by their poetry, they, by their writings, show the path. What the legislators do, they legislate for the society, they legislate for the community, they make rules for the community, but they are acknowledged. Shelley says that these poets are unacknowledged, they are unrecognized, they are unregistered. Nobody gives that importance to those poets. Nobody gives this importance to these poets. How we'll just introduce here we will be introducing with you just admire the forest, admire the poets. How poets are the great people. They show us the humble ways, they show us the great ideas, they tell us the many important ideas of humanity, the ideas of the protection of the environment, the ideas of the ecstasy of human relations, the ideas of the greatness of society, the greatness of humanity. Start with this. The poets are harbingers of peace, the poets are harbingers of humanity, they are the champions of human harmony and human solidarity. They have sung the songs of man and woman relations, they have sung the songs of love. Out of all poetry, the poetry of love covers almost 80% of any literature. And so, they are like the pigeons, they are like the doves of humanity who always are for peace, who are always for harmony, who are always for human excellence in all fields. Try, whatever. You cannot become Shakespeare, you cannot become Chaucer, you cannot become Philemon, you cannot become Ruskin Bond, but at least if you want, you will write some effective words in your introduction. Introduce, you suppose that you are an anchor in a village program or in a mohalla program, and you call somebody to come and sing, somebody to come and perform. Will you say, oh, here is a bugger who is coming, he is a dumb fool and he is a bad singer? No. You will say the excellent words. So, you start with the good words in your introduction. Even if it is a negative essay, start with good words and introduce that the poets, when everybody fails, the poets come to the rescue of humanity. They show you the better ways. They show you the better goals of humanity, harmony. They show of you secularism, they show you of equality, they show you the slogans of French Revolution. You remember Balzac, Comédie Humaine, the French poet, the French dramatist at the time of the French Revolution. There was much of violence in the French Revolution. There was much of violence by the Parisian crowds. They were burning everything whichever came in their way. They are almost trying to kill those people who were related to religion. Many people, many priests, many Christian monks fled from France. Many came to India also. They established their churches. But even in that period, poets like Balzac, he wrote the poetry of love. He wrote the poetry of peace. He wrote the poetry of harmony. So, herein, give the example of R.N. Tagore. I have given the example of 3 Nobel laureates. What Tagore said? Tagore fought with Gandhi. No, I am not for nationalism. I am for internationalism. I am for humanity, because nationalism in the world is creating all the world war. All nations are fighting with each other. There is so much of bloodshed, there is so much of cruelty, there is so much destruction because of this nationalism. He sung the song of humanism in his book Gitanjali. He said, you may be running against the stream, don't fear. If nobody comes with you, go alone. Jodi tor dak sune keu na ase. These are Bangla words. If anybody does not heed to your call, go alone, but fight for the just cause. Echo the cause, just cause. Just oppose nationalism, because nationalism is the cause of war. Nationalism is cause of the destruction. Gandhi advised him. Gandhi went to Santiniketan after coming from South Africa, and he said, Gurudev and the poet master, somewhat you have taken a wrong conception of nationalism. Nationalism is not always bad. Nationalism promotes you to work for a country, to work for a society, and then at least if it's not possible for the whole world to serve, you can serve at least the nation. Gandhi said to Rabindranath Tagore that you can sing the song of a nation and you can unite the nation. This nation is so disunited by religion. This nation is so disunited by caste. This nation is so disunited by language. So different lifestyles. At least you can sing the song of unity. And then Tagore wrote the national anthem. He said, all these Dravid, all these Bengal, all these Utkal, they must unite together to protect this land of ours. And then they will change. But to his last days, because he was awarded the Nobel Prize, he went to all over the world. He went to South America, he went to Russia, he went to Africa, he went to China, he went to this Japan, and from everywhere he wrote letters. When he was in Japan, he wrote, these people are so study, these people are so laborious, these people are so disciplined, but you see, these people are simply trying to dominate over China. They have almost captured Russia. They defeated in 1904 Russia and then claimed everything in Korea. The protection of Korea was entrusted to China. But Japan said, no, it is our duty now, because we are more powerful than you. And so Rabindranath was complaining that this nation of great people is suffering from a national kind of a euphoria, national kind of vanity, and they are acting against humanity, because these people are not for even their own downgraded people. Japan was a highly, even today, Japan is a highly divided society. There are some people who are like untouchables of India, and they are not given that kind of respect. They are not given equality. So Tagore, while in Japan, the letter from Japan, he said, very, very disciplined. They said, very, very sturdy. He said, very, very laborious. But what for? They are not championing the cause of equality. They are not working for the betterment of all Japan. They are simply, they have got a very different mindset. Tagore praised them, but he said they are going in a wrong direction. And Tagore was substantiated. Tagore was proved right in the Second World War when Japan became so acrimonious. It had the temerity to attack United States of America. It bombed Pearl Harbor, and so when the war was over, America was bent on punishing and bent on taking a revenge from Japan, and that was in the words of Tagore, because of nationalism. So Tagore showed the way that you be more concerned about humanism, more concerned with international consideration than with national considerations. So we come on to the second poet, again a Nobel laureate. So he is Pablo Neruda. Pablo, remember his name. Pablo Neruda, a poet from Chile. Probably he was given the Nobel Prize in 1971. Very simple poet, but a poet deeply concerned with the condition of the masses. He asked, if you are a man, have you ever helped a beggar? If you are a man, have you ever dreamed of bettering this world? If you are a man, have you given a tumbler of water to a thirsty person? Lines like this. The whole of Latin America, after the 1950s, became a source of huge exploitation by the multinational corporations. This land, not very rich in minerals, but very rich in agricultural products. A small country, Ecuador, produces the highest amount of banana in the world. Brazil is the highest producer of coffee in the world. Many of the countries are highest producer of cocoa in the world. But what is the condition of the general people? This whole land was a colony of the Spanish or Spain, barring only one country, that is Brazil. Brazil was extracted from Spain by Portugal. It was a Portugal colony. So there was a revolution, Albanian revolution there in a Spanish person, but he was so deeply hurt by the conditions of the people there that he said, no, there must be equality. Pablo Neruda also sung the song of giving people. Brazil started a program of Liposo. Give them, whoever needs food, whoever needs medicine, whoever needs any other succor, give it to them. And we have in India copied the Brazilians. We introduced a law, FSA, Food Security Act, in 2013. Where from we got it? This was Brazil, whose program we adopted. We adopted first Narega and we changed the name Manrega. It was their program. This was a good program. We tried to copy it. But under the whose inspiration the Brazilians started this? It was Pablo Neruda. Pablo Neruda who said, no, you have to provide the bread to the hungry. You have to provide shelter to those people who have no shelter, who have no homes. So the social concern, this is a great poet, a leftist poet, and he had the great concern of the poor people, and that is why it is said there was a pink revolution in Latin America. There was a revolution in Latin America, not an armed revolution. Latin America is the area where the highest number of terrorists were there. What terrorism these Arabs can do? They were such terrorists that they challenged the whole state. 7 Spring, Morning Star, these are the names of the terrorists. What happened? A negative development had happened there in Latin America. And what is this? The terrorists were copied and imitated by whom? By the drug barons. There are such drug traffickers, there are such drug barons who challenge the whole state. And some of the drug barons have been captured by America, have been captured by US forces, have been captured by other forces. So we come on to another poet of Africa. His name is Ole Soyinka. Ole Soyinka. You will say, sir, how many poets, how many writers we can remember? No, at least some of the poets. For example, you should remember Pablo Neruda. You should remember Ole Soyinka. You should remember Abu Bakr of the Sudan. You should remember Orhan Pamuk of Turkey. Because by their literature, by their poetry, by their novels, they have shown a new path. Jean-Paul Sartre. Remember Sartre. Sartre was awarded the Nobel Prize. He said, "Arey yaar, I don't have the place in my house where I can keep this Nobel Prize. My house is all full of books. Please keep your house." You must remember that poet, that Negro poet who was given the Nobel Prize, ultimately accepted it. But he is a singer of peace. He is a singer of humanity of America. Bob Dylan. The name is Bob Dylan. Remember at least those people. Bob Dylan, Pablo Neruda, Ole Soyinka, Rabindranath Tagore. Even you should remember some other poets, some other literarians like Subramanyam Bharati. We can just name him. This Subramanyam Bharati, he was hunted by the Britishers. Ultimately, he took shelter in Pondicherry, the French area. Subramanyam Bharati said, the nation is great. Serve the nation. Serve the people of the nation. You love yourself, but love the nation also. You love yourself, but love the nation also. There is so much of satisfaction, there is so much of ecstasy, there is so much of fulfillment in just serving nation, in serving the people of nationality, that you can well position yourself. So, now as far as this situation is there, when you analyze, what you will analyze? Shelley has been, there are 4 instances. Some of the poets, some of the literarians always sing the songs of the power that be. What our Prithviraj Raso did, Prithviraj Raso did not sing the song of humanity. He sang the song of Prithviraj Chauhan. So naturally, what these court poets, Faizi was a court poet of Akbar. He was a Navratan. Is his poetry of that order, which was the poetry of those who were singing in the jungles, or Tulsidas or Surdas? Tulsidas was a contemporary of Akbar. Probably there is a legend that Tulsidas was invited to the court of Akbar. Tulsidas refused. As Shivaji invited Tukaram, but Tukaram refused. No, I will not go to the Darbar. My place is among the people and I'll be among the people. I'll not go to the Darbar. So what is the analysis? The analysis is that the court poets, or those poets who are unduly inspired by a negative nationalism. There are two countries in the world, one is Japan, another is Germany, which have developed like anything. They have become the most powerful countries in the world. Even today, the first economy of the world is USA, the second economy of the world is China, the third economy of the world is Japan, the fourth economy of the world is Germany. So actually our size is so big that our economy has overtaken England. We do not have distributive justice here. What I am trying to say, that the poets in Japan and the poets in Germany, they did not show the way. Rather, many of the poets were with Hitler. Many of the poets were Japanese leaders who wanted and who showed that no, Japanese army should march. Japanese army should invade other countries. In the Second World War, Japan not only captured China, whole of Southeast Asia, even up to the borders of Manipur of India was captured by Japan, was controlled by Japan. Japanese bombers even bombed Calcutta for some time. And the British had invited the American army to Calcutta, to Bengal and to Chennai, present-day Chennai, to defend these areas because Britain did not have sufficient army. Now, there are many poets in England which are not talking of humanity, not the suffering masses, but talking about their own nation, talking about this. You write in the analysis that poets sometimes side with the ruling class, side with those people who are the wealthy people, and they are. So the Nobel Prize, so the Gyanpith Award is not given always to the best poets in the world. The poetry or the poem should be judged by the ideas they are representing. What kind of idea they are representing? If some poet is trying to eulogize, trying to just admire war, trying to admire his own country, so After all, you are a poet. Poet means what Shelley meant, what Tagore meant. Tagore said, even if I have to go against my nation for the cause of humanity, for the cause of human beings, for the cause of women, I'll do that. So naturally, poet has to be a harbinger of peace. Here, we should at least, we should try. What you, in way forward, what you will suggest? Suggest, number one, that the parents should not impose their dreams on their children. Why should you become an engineer? Why should you become a management trainee and a graduate? Why should you become a kind of a doctor? You want to become an artist. You want to become a poet. You want to become a traveler. You want to go to Japan. You want to become even Batuta. Even Batuta, Pahan ke Juta, that song was there. But this Ibn Battuta was who? Ibn Battuta was a man from Morocco. See that African Morocco. He fled from the marriage hall. He was getting married. So, no, this is not my business. I'll not get married. Fled from there, came down to Delhi, became an official of Muhammad bin Tughlaq. But then he said, no, this is not more for you. Left the job, went to South India, got some laborers, had a boat, wanted to go to China. His boat sunk in Arabian Sea. But again he returned. Then again he went and landed in China. This kind of, this is not poetry, but this is what, this is the freedom of choice given to a boy or a girl. A girl wants to become a dancer, let her become that. You suggest, in way forward, you suggest. If a child in your family wants to write poems, give him a notebook, give her a notebook, give her a pen and give him the freedom. Don't try to just jumble him or jumble her up with the homeworks. No, 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 first you do the homework. Why should you do the homework? It seems somewhat against the current. After all, what for the poets have been made? They have been made to run against the current. Clear? So, and when you will conclude with the good words. The world today needs is scores of poets. The world today needs hundreds and thousands of poets, hundreds and thousands of singers. The singers and the poets who can sing the song of humanity, who can sing the song of harmony, who can sing the song of brotherhood. So, not only of digitization, not only, so there is some kind of a situation where human relations are being damaged, where humanity is not given the kind of care. So you end, let the poet sing the song of peace, let the poet sing the song of harmony, let the poet sing the songs of peace in the world, romance in the world. Clear? So now, the third essay. The third essay is, this is, yeah, history is a series of History is a series of victories over the or owned by the scientific, not over, owned by the scientific man over the romantic man. Sometimes we do have a wrong meaning of romance. We think that romance means love stories, love, or somebody has just fallen in, just infatuated by someone. Romance means you go on a tree, jump from there. Romance means adventure. Shakespeare, when he wrote that play of Romeo and Juliet, actually from there this wrong interpretation of romance has started. People thought, oh, this love story of Romeo and Juliet is romance. No. Shakespeare was saying that Romeo, that daredevil, he climbed onto the window of Juliet and he said, how you are. And Juliet said, you bugger. You have simply put your life on risk. Anybody, if you say, he'll just shoot you down. And Romeo says, I don't care for myself, I care for your darshan, didar and your sight. So here the romance is not the love, the romance is the daredevil act of Romeo. It is said that Sultan or Nawab of that now which is Hyderabad, earlier it was called Golconda. So Golconda had a Nawab whose name was Qutub Quli Shah. Qutub Quli Shah loved a lady, either who was a dancing girl or who was the daughter of a peasant or who was the daughter of a small landlord, whose name was Bhagmati. And that lady did not care for this man. You are a Muslim, I don't have any concern of you. One day, when there were floods, Musi river was almost on its top. Qutub Quli Shah jumped into the river because he feared that probably Bhagmati's life is in danger. On his horse back, he crossed that river, in the flooded river, and reached Bhagmati. Bhagmati was surprised. Oh, this man loves. Then she decided, yes, I'll go with you. So, but she refused to marry him. After some time, she was ready to marry him, and then she was converted to Islam, and her name was changed to Hyder Mahal, and this Qutub Quli Shah said and decided that no, I'll found a city in her name, and on the name of Hyder Mahal, Hyderabad was founded. Now this is called romance. Start with any of such stories. Introduce your essay with any of such stories. Either start with Romeo and Juliet or start with any other daredevil lover who has either crossed or who has either jumped on a train like Amitabh Bachchan in a cinema or something. Probably in that Sarabi movie, that there was a scene and where he just goes to, probably Jayaprada was a heroine. So you can just describe that scene in the introduction. This is romance. Now the essay topic is that always the scientific people have won over the romantic people. But if the romantic people become the scientific people, then what would happen? Here you elaborate, elaborate here. I have already told you what romance is. Then the question what science is. The question what science is. Science is the systematic accumulation of knowledge. Science is the systematic accumulation of knowledge. This is the systematic, this is the accumulation, and then it is knowledge. Now, systematic means what? Systematic means step by step, deliberate. Systematic means step by step, deliberate. Accumulate means you just collect it, you collect it. And knowledge means anything which is a real explanation of a phenomena. Anything which is a real explanation of a phenomena. So, you say that if there is industrialization, then the larger families will not survive. It is an explanation. It can be proved again and again. So, you say that when oxygen and hydrogen meet in a definite velocity, they produce water. This is knowledge. Now, what happens that this science always emerges victorious over adventure, over romance. Thus, the meaning of this essay is this. Clear? Now, you start with this, that here what we say, that start with this, as I told you, the story, any story where a very lover man or a woman also. Now there are many stories in India where the woman goes to the house of the boy, "You will not marry me, I will see you." And she goes with the barat and forces the man to marry her. This is a very true story among the Tharus. The Tharu woman, they go to many of the tribes. The Santhal girl, if he wants to marry a boy, she loves that boy, and then what she does? She goes on top on the chapper, on the roof, jumps from there and capture the boy. "You will have to marry me." This is a normal practice. Whenever a boy refuses to marry a woman or a girl, what is this? This is romance. This is romance. So in the film Sole, what they did? They jumped on the running train and went up to the engine. What is this? This is romance. Now, it is true that scientific discoveries, scientific developments have been more powerful than the adventurous actions. It's a fact. But you see, the terrorists today were daredevil, and they can dismantle the whole scientific structure of, or scientific endeavor of, or a scientific. So you see that today America has the best of the lethal weapons the humanity can have. But even they were defeated by these pagals, the Taliban people, motley crowd of the warriors. How? It is their romance. Today they are up against Pakistan, their supporter. Be restrained or we'll just do something. So Pakistanis are also now fearful of what they may do. They have sponsored them, they have supported them. But today, because of the romance of the Taliban, because of the daredevil acts of Taliban, they are fearing them. So it's a fact. You write that yes, scientific endeavors, scientific projects, scientific actions, they are responsible for controlling even the most of the daredevil acts and the most of the romantic acts by people. But you see, give an example of this Leonardo Vinci or Vinci. An Italian, a great person. Leonardo da Vinci was a painter and was a scientist. He was a scientist and a painter. And this Leonardo da Vinci, he has painted and he has made that portrait or this bust of Mona Lisa, world's best painting. But he was also a scientific man. The king of Florence asked him to make a poisonous arrow which can kill the victim just by the touch of the arrow. Leonardo da Vinci provided a scathing criticism of the Catholic religion, of Christian religion. He was given a punishment by the church. He fled from there, but caught by the sepoys of the king of Florence and ordered to drink poison, killed. What I am trying to just indicate right now, that sometimes, yes, romance and science are contradictory to each other. But if science is on the side of romance, it is said, don't be in front of the officer and don't be behind the horse. But if the officer is riding the horse, then where you will be? So, don't be, अफसर के आगे नहीं रहो, घोड़े के पीछे मत रहो. अगर अफसर घोड़े पर सवार है तो कहाँ रहो? Where will you be there? So this is the dilemma of Leonardo da Vinci. And then you will analyze. Then you will analyze that as far as science is concerned, as far as scientific endeavor is concerned, so long it is benign, so long it is for the good of humanity, so long it is for finding the remedy of a disease, so long it is finding for the remedy of COVID-19, it is always praiseworthy. But the science behind the bomb, the science behind the sarin gas, the science behind a particular AK-57 and 56, this is something opposed to romance, So you say and write that whenever the romance is for particular benign cause, science should be given a go by. Science should be respected. Science should not be respected. It should be given a go by. And what would be your way forward? What you would suggest? What you would suggest? You will suggest that children should be encouraged to be daredevil. Children should be encouraged to go astray and not always follow the trodden path. What does it mean? What one of the poets said, that those who are exceptional people, they do not follow the lines. They do not follow the pattern set by people. They go astray. The lion, it never lives in a very, very hole or a very large hole. Now, only 1, 2. So the daredevil people, they are not conventional people. Way forward should be, at the same time, we should promote science, and we should promote also adventure, because adventure is romance. Today romance has become very popular. India has got only 2 social festivals. One is 1st January, all over India. The rich person observes 1st January on 31st December, 12 o'clock. All pataka, all wine, dine, all these things. The truck driver, even the Karol Bagh beggar, no begging today. Today is 1st January. We'll have some meat, we'll have some rice. So this is a new festival. This is only one festival. Other festivals are local festivals. In Bihar, they are dying for Chhath. Chhath is coming and many people will die on the railway tracks, on the coaches, in the rush of going home. So, Durga Puja is coming. There will be all hangama in Bengal. Diwali is coming. There will be all hangama in Uttar Pradesh and Punjab. All these festivals are local festivals. 1st January is a national festival. The second festival which is coming up is 14th February, Mohabbat ka Parab. No matter whatever you do, make it anything, but now because love is in the air, female sexuality has been freed, they have become free. It was only Assam where women proposed to men, will you marry me, you ass, or you gadha, will you marry me? Now all over India, many women are there who are very often riding on the horses and going to their boyfriends, half or full boyfriends, and they are proposing that, oh, okay, will you marry me? All this, all the kind of the initiative is being taken by women also. So you'll conclude with the words that science and romance are contradictory phenomena, and science has always emerged victorious over the forces of romance. But sometimes science and romance both accommodate each other, and it is the romance which incites science or which initiates science and can repeat, it would be repetition, give the name of Leonardo da Vinci, who was a romantic person but at the same time a scientific person, one of the great scientists of his time. So, then coming to the fourth essay, the fourth essay is, it is Ship in the Harbor. this is essay, ship in the harbor is safe, but that is not what ship is for. The meaning is, if the soldier is in a palace, in the Rashtrapati Bhavan, guarding the Rashtrapati Bhavan, he is all smart with his turban and all this tamgas and his shoulder. He is very smart. But is it the real place for him, for the soldier? For the soldier, the battlefield is the real place. Probably, in all Indian languages, there is some proverb for this. There is some proverb for this. So, when children are sitting idle in the evening, and today most of the time they are seeing the mobiles, they are kicked by their parents or their elder brothers. What are you doing, man? Go to the field, play some games, and you are seeing the mobile. So, a young man does not have the right place in his home, rather the right place is he should be in the field. This is, I have read, but many people are saying that no, this is not his statement. Albert Einstein, the great scientist, he said this. He said this once that that anything which is meant for a particular purpose, he should be doing that and not sitting idle. Not sitting idle, not sitting idle. So, here in the beginning, you start with this, that there are different activities. An artist has to paint, a singer has to sing, a soldier has to fight, administrator has to administer, a student has to study, and those who are give the example of the ashram vyavastha here. What is this ashram vyavastha? When you are a child, you are from brahmacharya. Brahmacharya does not mean shunning sex. Brahmacharya means leading a disciplined life, study, follow the teacher, obey the teacher, remain very restrained, don't go here and there, and don't tako jhako and all those things. So be controlled. In the grahastha dharma, you have to marry, you have to produce children, you have to earn, you have to accumulate, you have to go on war, or you have to earn and go other places. When you are in the Vanprastha, Vanprastha does not mean going into the jungle. How can people go to the jungle? Vanprastha simply means the old lady, the mother-in-law, the budi and moti saas has to give her keys to the daughter-in-law. This is now her days are over. Now her days are over. Now the days of the daughter-in-law has come, and so she has to give the charge to that lady. Give the charge to the young lady. So this is, and then finally sannyas does not mean coming out of the house and doing that. No, sannyas means now you are only doing this, preparing yourself for your last days. This is called as sannyas. So naturally what we say and what this essay topic says, give the different stages, write the different stages. But when you analyze, that in this essay would be a somewhat important task. When we analyze, write three things. Number one, that this is a fact that one has to change his or her action in emergency. In Hindu religion, there is a term, apad dharma. So, in apad dharma, a man is allowed to eat even the flesh of meat of dog. If you are hungry, you don't have anything. This has been enjoyed in Hindu religion. Do that. Survive. Generally, men have not done. Women have not done it, but there is a prescription, there is a permission for doing this. There is a permission for doing this. The second thing is that as far as this analysis is concerned, analysis is that sometimes it is better not to do anything. Sometimes it is better to harbor the ship for long time. He is very disturbed. If there is storm, then it is better to harbor the ship. It was a good decision on the part of the government in the days of this COVID-19. The whole India was halted by an executive order. Why? It was an emergency situation. So in normal situation you have to work, but since there is lockdown, you have not to work. So this is a fact. And the third thing is that even in normal times, very often what happens, that keep your calm and don't adventure in the open. Remain there and don't adventure in the open. Way forward is suggest way forward in this essay is that one should be prepared for all the eventualities. You are a student, but supposing there is a war, what would happen? You will ask to join the army, you will ask to join the National Guards. You have to do it. The second thing is that sometimes here it is said that since it is a ship, it should be in the sea and not in the harbor. But supposing a person is a doctor. At the time of the Second World War, what happened? Many doctors were given the job of only carriers of information, and they did it. So you must have heard about this Yahya Noor Khan, a lady of Indian origin. Her father was a Sufi saint. She was drafted by the British Army and she was trained to become a spy. So she went there. A girl of only 15 years was drafted to become a spy, and she did it and she went there. A person should be prepared for all the eventualities. This is your suggestion. And then conclude. Gone are the days when people were satisfied with their own works. Today is the time when there are no love letters. There are only mobiles. And not only the full words. You simply write 3-4 letters. So you say that in this time, in the conclusion, that it is true, the soldier is for the field and the army, the commander is for the forces, the teacher is for the classroom, but when the things are not normal, they have to do anything they are asked to do. So yes, it is true, as I am saying, that you cannot become, or you have a very slow speed of writing. Write less, but in the introduction and in the conclusion, take your time. In the selection of the essay topic also, take your time. Understand the meaning. If you are not understanding, leave that. If you are not understanding, leave that. That is the best possible course. So, yes, this is also a very, very common proverb in India, that the time to repair the roof is when the sun is shining. Every language zone, in Punjabi, in Telugu, in Kannada, in Hindi, there is a proverb for this. Start with women in Indian homes in North India start giving their quilts and the rajais in the open sun when they think that winter is almost on the door. They make the potato chips, they make the achar and pickle of chili when it is the month of April. The sun is very hot, they do it everywhere. Start with this. When women start knitting the wool sweaters, they start in the month of September and October, preparing for November and December and January. So, when the actual thing has come, you do not do that. Rather, you start doing only when you are expecting that it would come, and so you prepare when. So, what happens? That you write in different areas. Give the examples. You write about politics. The 2024 elections are still how many months away? There are more than 16 months still today. All the parties, the drums of elections have started beating. Somebody has started Jodo, somebody has started Todo, somebody started breaking the alliance. What is this? Write this. In the politics this happens In economics, people anticipate that things are changing. People anticipate things are changing, so they start changing. Now, video cassette players have not there, so they change their business. So the right work at the right time. Right work at the right time. This is the, when you analyze what you say. Most people do not do the right thing at the right time. UPSC aspirants, they think, let me pass this prelims ka jhagda pehle khatam ho, then we'll decide what would the main subjects. When the results of prelims are out, oh, I should take, no, this is easier, anthropology. They said, no, history. They said, public administration. This is the wrong thing. Some people say in Bihar, even when they have not learned to write A, they start thinking of UPSC. This is wrong. But you see, that most people do not do the right thing at the right time. So one of the slangs and one of the proverbs in India is that when there is fire, you are going to just dig the well. You are trying to dig the well. Now what would happen? So give this example and write that most of the people, they know that this should be done, but they do not do it. They do not do the right work at the right time, and they are in a hurry very often and do just go straight. As far as the way forward is concerned, in the way forward, here you will be writing 4 things. What? Every country, every person, every group has to do something of a futuristic plan. Futuristic plan. The Hindi states are relatively lazy in this. Why I say this? There was a research by Descartes, English form, like Pew Research Study, they have also a form. The date of an application or the last date for application is supposing 28th September. The Uttar Pradesh wala, the Bihar wala, the Madhya Pradesh, Chhattisgarh wala will submit the form on 25th, 26th, 27th, some, and the rest would be on 28th. The Bengali would be submitting on the 2nd of this. The Maharashtrian would be submitting on the 5th of this. And the Madrasi or the Chennai people or the Tamil Nadu people would be doing the first. The Kerala, the first day the booking starts. Now, some kind of this thing happens, and this is something natural. So, you will say, you will write that one has to be methodic despite the ethnic difference. Despite the ethnic difference. What does it mean? That you might have this. You in Bihar or Uttar Pradesh, you have to adopt this method. No, I just must do this. I must do this. And so naturally, you have to break that inertia and do it in the first instance. The third is that you should calculate, and the fourth is that advance planning. In India, it is said the highest number of intellectuals come from Bengal, the highest number of traders come from Rajasthan, and the highest forms of this criminals come from Bihar. So, this very thing is something that the people have now changed. Now, there are many people from Rajasthan who are becoming administrators. Now, there are very people in Bengal who are becoming businessmen. So, definitely this can happen only when we try to take a planned effort and advanced planning. Human beings are capable of doing anything. If they can go on moon, they can jump on the sea and go on some 5 kilometers down in the Pacific Ocean. They can do anything and conclude with this, that this action can be done this action can be done with all care and with all caution. This action, the reality is that the majority of people, at least in India, not in the Western countries, at least in India, do not do their work in time. Do not do their work in time, but they can do it if they conclude the essay with these hopeful words, that if we want, we can do the work in time. It is not a good practice to repeat the words of the essay topic, but if you think that it is necessary, then you can do it. You can do it. Now, the next essay is you cannot achieve. This is this is also of again a term which is you cannot step in the twice in the same river. What does it mean? This is a quote by famous Greek Heraclitus, very famous. Probably if your matriculation, if you had some lessons and some story, then Heraclitus was mentioned. Very, even earlier than Plato, 6th century BC, even earlier, older than Plato. A very simple saying. What does it mean?
Importance of time.
Not importance of time, importance of change. The topic is everything is subject to change. Change is law, static is wrong. Change is law, static, not time. Remember, this is a quote for change. Things are changing. Why the same river? Because much water has flowed in the river when you come next to just that river. So naturally the thing is that you cannot step, you cannot just get a bath in the same river because the water has changed. So the question is, the topic is, things change, sometimes fast, sometimes slow. So what happens? That you have to be prepared for the change. You have to be prepared for the change. Change is law, change is nature. So here you start. Everything is subject to change. We cannot have the same water, we cannot have the same plate, we cannot have the same air twice. Sometimes the pace of change is slow, Sometimes the pace of change is fast, but change is a must, change has to occur. Then what you do? In the elaboration, come down to, when you elaborate, come down to, now first write economy. What have been the changes in the economy? Earlier, economy was very simple. Then what happened? That people started using animals. Then what happened? That people started using some of the inanimate sources of energy like water, like fire, like other things. They started the wheels. They started other machines, elementary machines. We say, write this, that there are 4 revolutions. The first industrial revolution was the use of steam, the second industrial revolution, the third industrial revolution, and presently the fourth industrial revolution, where we are experiencing digitization. When we are experiencing digitization, some 10 years ago, it was difficult to talk to America. Today, the mother-in-law has opened her laptop or a mobile and the Google Talk or this meet. What are you cooking today? And the mother-in-law, daughter-in-law says from America, I don't have the time, mother-in-law, to cook. Oh, mom, you are thinking that this is India. This is States. Talking for hours, seeing each other. Oh, mom, you are becoming very old. And the mom said, you are becoming very plump, very fat. Probably you will have fatty liver. Be careful, be careful. So this kind of thing, this is change. Tribal women are using the mobiles, giving missed calls to their boyfriends. This has changed. Now you just politics. Right? That one time there were tribes, no state. This tribe was there. Then where the slave state came, then the feudal state came, and then this democracy has come. Elections, some 20 years ago in India, leaders used to go on motors, cars. Everybody is now using the helicopters. Now there is social media. Oh, Rahul Gandhi is wearing a T-shirt of 41,000. How good? The tag was seen from here, and on the laptop he just Google and she found out, oh, that this T-shirt cost this much. Probably today there is talk of the shoes. The social media is there. Just in a minute, you can send the message to 40,000 people. So, change has occurred. Change has occurred. You come down to this third thing, culture. There is so much of change in culture. There was songs people in villages used to sing at the time of marriage. Now there is fusion. The Western music and Indian music together. Even in villages, at the time of marriage, they have the drums, they have the loudspeakers and the dancing like anything. Old woman, old man, oh, what a Kali Yuga is this? People have simply gone mad, and see these young boys and young girls, they have simply become mad. Nobody has gone mad and nobody has been becoming mentally deranged. Simply it has changed. So, you in culture you write about that music, about dance. No matter how much we want, we cannot stop the elimination of traditional folk songs, eliminations of folk things. Yes, it is bad, it is tragic that some of the old arts, some of the old customs, some of the old folk ways are becoming extinct. They may be maintained in a museum, they may be maintained in an art house, they may be maintained in an art gallery, but it is simply impossible to bring them back with the same kind of bang, with the same kind of practice. It is not possible. It is not possible. So, when we talk of this, a social life, there is much of change. In India, we used to worship our families. Family life is the best life. If somebody does not give much importance to family life, then he was criticized. Today, even in the small towns, man and woman are living without marriage, living relations. Only few years back, 4 years or 3 years back, 5 years back, in Haryana there were khap panchayats punishing people for using mobiles. Today all khaps have gone to Khaprail or they cannot do anything now. They cannot do anything because things have changed. Things have changed. The same amount of control, no matter whatever you do. So people, the Muslims are fighting for their parda and hijab just because it's a kind of a resistance of cultural sensitivity. You cannot have this hijab. Why? Because the times have changed. It might be a religious duty for you, it might be a religious custom for you, but whenever you scientifically analyze this thing, it is not possible. It is not possible today to practice all these things. So naturally some people say that, yes, we will have this patta also. This cannot become a popular thing because times have changed. You see women with shorts, women with pants, women with hot pants. In villages still, not only men and women, but even dogs start barking when they see a young woman with hot pants. What would happen just 3 or 4 years or just after 1 year? Interaction has increased. People are going to villages from the cities, and since the people are going, so in the rural areas also, the fashion has changed. Women are wearing, not in the small villages, not in the interior villages, but in the small towns, the fashion has changed. They are simply now here, when you analyze, write 3 things. Everything is subject to change, but there are certain things which would remain constant. What are those things? Number 1, mother and offspring. Do you think a time would come when the mothers would throw their... No, this attitude has changed. But you see that no matter whatever happens, Mother has all the affection for children. Mother has all the affection for children. The same is true for the friends. Times have changed, but friendship has not changed. Whether you maintain it by symbolism or do not maintain it by symbolism, but friendship is friendship. Friendship means there you enjoy the company of each other. That is what is called as friendship. If there is some interest, it is not friendship. The only relationship in the world is that friendship is the only thing when people, either man and man, woman and woman, if they enjoy the company of each other, they do not want anything else. Everybody can betray, but not the friends. It's something constant. In the same thing it is said that never, one of the prime ministers said that neighbors cannot be changed. He was right. He was right. That means if India has a neighbor in Pakistan and this neighbor is behaving like a dog and its tails are twisted, how can you help it? Neighbors have never good relations. Neighbors have never good relations. So whether it is Sri Lanka, the Gujarat doctrine said we have to maintain good relations despite the fact that we are losing something. Why said so? Why this doctrine? Because naturally the neighbors do not have. Sri Lanka, allowed the Chinese ship to harbor in Hambantota, despite all the objections of India. Because they hate India in their heart of hearts. A big neighbor always dictating us, always trying to browbeat us is not something which we can just, which you can just have things like that. Yeah. Big brother attitude. So, yes, that's a. Not only this, you see Canada and USA, part of the same block. No passports are needed to cross each other's country. But even then, since they are neighbors, they have a kind of ambivalent relationship. This is also constant. When you conclude with good words. Again, by definition, change is axiom. Change is axiom, a law which is self-proved. Sometimes those who do not want to accept change fail in their history. See the Arab countries, see the African countries, see the tribes. Why they remain tribes? Because they failed to change right in the conclusion that the Occidental societies, they welcome change very fast. They say old is sold. In India, in the Oriental countries, we love our old things and we say old is gold. We say old is gold. The time has come when we must, by keeping some of the traditions, must say goodbye to most of the traditions. Must say goodbye to most of the traditions. Even you like or you do not like, change would occur and things will not remain the same. Clear? So, write this and try in the, be somewhat a literary person, not only, I mean some kind of a poetism. You cannot mug up everything. And remember, if somebody's quote is there, it is not necessary that you should remember the quote. Not necessary. How many quotes you can remember? Not all the quotes of Gandhi, but most of the Gandhi's quotes are very simple quotes, everything for need, not for greed, or Vivekananda's quotes. But it's not possible that you can remember all the quotes. Some of the quotes are very close to each other. For example, Ambedkar also said, if you want to know the status of a society, know the status of women. Even Nehru said this. Nehru also said this, that if you have and if you want to have an idea, just have it from the women, how they feel, what kind of liberty they have. So, this is not possible to remember all the sayings. So, we come to next, that is.
Sir, can we mention those customs and traditions which are contradictory to science in this?
In change?
Yes, sir.
No, in the earlier essay you should write. Here, for example, that essay Science and Romance, there you can write. But here you, context is, and the topic is different. Topic is different because you have to write about change.
We should change with time.
No, but you should mention in the elaboration, as I mentioned, that the West has changing very fast. We are not changing that fast. Africans did not change that fast, or the Occidental areas did not change that fast. You remember, you can write this, that Japan is the society which has maintained its tradition very, very vehemently, very seriously, but it has also adopted the changes very seriously. In 1863, when there was a Meiji restoration, that is a wrong word. King was not restored, the emperor was not restored, the shoguns were ruling, but they started one thing. They sent their man to the Western countries. They learnt modern technologies. In between 1863 to 1910, Japan became one of the developed countries of the world within 50 years. And England was farsighted enough, futuristic enough to go for an agreement with Japan, because they realized that France did not attempt it, USA did not attempt it, but the Britishers, they were cunning enough, they were intelligent enough to see that Japan would become a very powerful country. So, despite the fact that after the First World War, there was serious competition between Japan and England in terms of textile clothes, cotton textile, but England did not break that agreement. So, in change, don't give that tradition and modernity contradiction. In that previous essay of romance and this science, there you can write. So, now we come on to this. Ismail. Probably some people have written this essay. Ismail is the chosen vehicle for all MB duties. This is a quote by Harban not a very important literary, not a very important story writer, but he has given a very good thing that here is the ambiguities. You can also say there are uncertainties. Start in a situation where 100 guns cannot work for you, a simple smile can work for you. A simple smile can work for you. A smile can lead to the sinking of thousands of ships. The smile of a lady can change the destiny of nations, and a smile of a person can just melt the ice in a very long frozen relationship. A smile is the answer to all the enigmas of your life. So, this smile, this is what he wants to say. He wants to say that whenever, four things, whenever there are unfavorable situations, you smile. Whenever you are, so supposing an aspirant in the UPSC, he prepared throughout the year for essay, but in the exam hall, he is not finding any essay of his preparation. For example, last year, the essay topics were from Hegel, essay topics were from Marx, essay topics from Schopenhauer, essay topics from psychology, essay topics from this Alwood. So naturally, they were lost what to write and what not to write. This time at least, they are proverbs. You can write. These are quotes you can write. So naturally, here you have, I have just given you the introduction for all the anomalies, for all the ambiguities, for all the unfavorable situations, the answer is a smile. The answer is a smile. So, whenever there is uncertainty, whenever you do not know something, a smile. So, then you hear, when you elaborate, you pick up certain areas. What would happen? So, for example, this you can write in a confusing situation, in a confusion. You write in politics, those who are rivals, those who are, supposing Smriti Irani and Rahul Gandhi, age-old foes and the rivals. So Smriti Irani defeated Rahul Gandhi in Amethi, and she has been always after either saying wrong or saying right or saying truth or saying false. She said, he didn't go to this Swami Vivekananda's memorial there when he was in Kanyakumari. Wrong. But if they happen to meet each other in an airport tarmac or in the lounge of the airport, they might be hating each other from the heart of hearts. But the best possible course for them is to smile after seeing each other. This is the answer to this enmity, to this bitter competition between them. So even if when Jaishankar meets the Pakistani counterpart, or Jaishankar meets Chinese counterpart, in his heart of hearts is angry. When they meet, they smile at each other. When they meet, they smile at each other. Supposing you have been put to harassment without any of your faults. The teacher mistakenly harangued you, given you some wrong words and strong words. You are facing oddities one after the other. This thing went wrong, even that thing went wrong, even this was wrong. What happens? Then you smile to yourself. What I can do, because this is beyond my control. And then there is a smile. Then there is a smile. Because, so you say, in business, supposing one company that is the leader in the telecommunication sector is challenged by another company, and the promoter of that company meets this company promoter. What they should do? They should smile. So when Adani and Ambani meets, Adani was number one. Within a course of 3 years, Adani Sahib has become, don't give these names because, but you can simply say the two corporates, even in the world, Elon Musk and this Bezos, Amazon owner or promoter, they have the bad of the relations, the worst of the relations. But what they should do when they meet each other, they should smile at each other. And that at least breaks the ice for further negotiations, breaks the ice for further talks, break the ice. So, herein, even in culture, there are two competitors. There are two very strong rivals. When they meet each other, what should you do? So naturally, supposing Brahmastra has crossed the earnings of this Kashmir files. So, if the two directors meet, what they should do? Should they fight? Should they criticize each other? There are actors who do not like each other. Salman Khan does not like Shah Rukh Khan. If they happen to meet each other, what they do? Even the female actors are not at good terms. But if they happen to meet, they must smile. So here the topic is that, that this smile has 4 things. Number 1, that you are in trouble. Then a smile can make you feel somewhat comfortable. Then number 1, you have the puzzle, and then what you do? You are not understanding something. You are not able to just understand the meaning of a particular essay. And then what you do? You do one thing that you go for a smile. And so you think that probably by that we can understand, probably by that we can just know the meaning of this thing. We can know we can just have some kind of an answer to this. So, as I told you that you are facing all the odds, and then what you do, that in this facing odds, you try to smile, because you see that what I can do. Now a smile is the answer. So, you have been troubled by no fault of yours. and then you smile. Because that's the only way you can just overcome that kind of a situation, you can overcome that kind of a problem. But when you analyze, you see in certain situations you should not, or one should not smile. One should not smile. For example, before an officer, if a guilty person is there, he should not smile. What would happen? Because this would be taken wrongly. He may become angry that you are smiling. You are smiling. A police officer has gone for his investigation and the criminal is smiling. This is something wrong. Number two is that supposing those people who are in a funeral, smiling is bad. It is a very pathological condition, pathos, then nobody should smile. Nobody should smile. It is supposed to be a very bad thing. It is supposed to be a very bad thing. And the third thing is, when serious talks are going, one should not smile. When you conclude, smile is the answer to all the enigmas and all the problems. When a person is in deep trouble, if he has the courage to smile, it probably gives him the solace and support. An individual who is facing all the odds, despite his best efforts, he has the only solution to smile. And those people who are in a pathological condition, they should never smile. Conclude the essay with the lines that in human history, in human society, individuals overcome their difficult situations by a simple smile, and smile is a great relief for people in conditions of stress. Now, we come, this is an essay, probably some people were not very comfortable with this essay. Just because you have a choice, it does not mean that you have, no, there was one more essay, sorry. Yeah, this is the last essay probably. So just because you have a choice, it does not mean that any of them has to be right. What does it mean? The meaning of the essay is that very often there are situations when you have many choices, but none of the choices is correct. None of the choices is right. I have, for this essay, selected the three cases. One is Subhash Chandra Bose. Why? Subhash Chandra Bose had a kind of an ambivalent relationship with Mahatma Gandhi. He was not keeping a good health. Subhash, he had tuberculosis. He went for medical checkup. Then while he returned, he had this Congress politics before him. He stood against the uses of Mahatma Gandhi all in Haripur Congress. And then he had to resign. In the re-election, he had to resign because he found that the other executive members are not cooperating with him. He had many choices. One choice was he did not leave the Congress, but he founded a separate party, Forward Bloc. Then he was put into house arrest. He had again many choices. He could have simply said that, no, I will not do anything. Otherwise, the Britishers always alleged that Subhash Bose has contacts with terrorist groups. From this house confinement, one night he simply escaped as an Afghan person to Afghanistan, and from there to Germany, and then to Japan, and then to. Now here, he has many choices. He founded the Indian National Army. He founded the Indian National Bank. He founded the Indian National Women Group. In a society, in a country, in a time when women were not allowed to join even the normal jobs, he founded a women army contingent. He founded a women army contingent, and that was a very important thing. That was a very difficult thing. That was a very exceptional thing. Now, herein, I want to say that he had many choices, but probably none of the choices he adopted was a correct choice. One can have many answers to this. No, he did the right thing by going over to Singapore, by going over to Japan and founding the Indian National Army. People may say it. They may say that it was correct that he went to Germany, met Hitler, and then he wanted support, started a radio station, all that. But in normal circumstances, it is said that no, his actions or none of the choices he adopted was a correct choice. Probably Nehru later wrote, he married in Germany, a sacred marriage, and his daughter's name is probably Anita. So she is there. So Nehru used to send money up to probably 1962, when till Nehru survived, or till Nehru was alive, to that lady in Germany and to her child. So, but herein, what I want to say, that none of the choices Subhash Bose adopted was correct, and so was right. He had many choices, and what he did. So it is possible. Amartya Sen has written a book on choice, but his choice is that choice of the food, choice of the shelter, choice of the clothes, choice of the education, choice of the health. If I have the choice that should I eat bread, or should I eat roti, or should I eat paratha, That's an important choice. But herein, the choices means you can do this, you can do this, you can do this, and none of the choices is correct. This is a quote not by a very famous man, not a very famous man, Norton Jester, writer of children book and other books. His some of the terms, Moby Dick is a very famous term. He has waterways, and since he was also a great traveler, he traveled to different areas, went to Australia, went to Africa, and he wrote about those travels. And so very often he writes that the tribes, whatever choice they have, none of the choices is correct. So even in your life, supposing you want to become an IAS officer, you want to become an engineer, you want to become an artist, you want to become a pilot, you want to become something else, but you are not successful in any of the choices. So this just want to write that despite the fact that one has many choices, one is not really able to do that, and that choice is not correct. So we have given this situation of Sri Lankan Tamils or the Indian Tamils in Sri Lanka. So first is Subhas Bose is a person, Tamilians, Indian Tamilians are a group. They had different choices. Some of them participated in the elections. Some of them said, no, we will not participate in the elections, but we will be there. Some of them decided to form a terrorist group or an armed group, Liberation Tiger of Tamil Eelam. Prabhakaran was the man, and Prabhakaran was a good leader that way. Now what happened? In 2009, when China supported Sri Lanka, India had sympathies among the Indians also and the Sri Lankans also. So our step was also not very correct. Indian peacekeeping force was not a correct solution. But this choice was not of the Sri Lankans or the Tamilians. This was not their choice. Now herein what happens? None of their choices, either the peaceful election participation or the peaceful isolation or the armed insurrection, none of the choices became a correct choice. None of the choices became a correct choice. So what we say that as far as the Sri Lankan Tamils or the Indian Tamils in Sri Lanka are concerned, none of their choices was a correct choice. So when we come to a kind of India as such, we have also given this India after independence. After independence, there are two situations. One situation was, in this after post-colonial stage, there was an open, we can have followed the capitalist path and joined the Western Bloc as Pakistan did. The second thing is that we could have become socialist and joined with USSR. And the third thing is that we have adopted this democratic socialism, which many of them people feel that we have not done the right thing. So out of the three choices, every choice is supposed to be wrong. We did not become capitalist like the Pakistanis, like the Sri Lankans. We did not become socialist like the China, like the Cambodia, like this Laos. and we adopted a separate path of democratic socialism, bringing in socialism in a peaceful manner. Bringing in socialism in a peaceful manner. Now, it's also a fact that the second thing, we in India adopted planning, and planning market. It was not only a choice of Nehru, all the capitalists in India. There was Tata plan, there was Birla plan. In 1944, all these industrialists wanted planning in India because they felt without planning this poor country, this backward country cannot advance, this poor country cannot go up. But today what people are saying, if we had not adopted planning, we could have gone much higher. So none of the choices, out of these choices, this capitalism, for example, many countries of Asia and Africa, they adopted this choice. Many countries adopted socialist choice, few compared to this. But we were the single country in the world who adopted or which adopted the choice of democratic socialism. Socialism through peaceful means, socialism through parliamentary democracy. The same is true of planning. Now, what to do and what not to do? The choice. We had democratic socialism. We achieved what type of economic development? That is called as Hindu rate of growth. Professor Raj Krishna's term. Raj Krishna was the man who said this is the Hindu rate of growth. He was an economist. He went to England for doing PhD, but Nehru said, oh, your services are required in India. You give this PhD business to a latter year, and so what you do this. So, even Ambedkar, in 1934, when we wrote the book Annihilation of Caste, he wrote the book Annihilation of Caste. Ambedkar said, what should I do? Should I go with Congress? Should I go with Mahatma? Should I start a new party? Should I say that no, I will not remain a Hindu? He started a new party. The party was Independent Labour Party. He declared in 1934 itself, I am born a Hindu, I will not remain a Hindu till my death. And he adopted Buddhism just 6 weeks before his death. Now the question is, was it right? Was this choice right? Or was that choice right? Should he had joined Congress? He became a minister. It was on the benign advice of Gandhi that he should be in the union ministry, in the ministry, that means interim government ministry. He was there. It was not his choice. He was simply persuaded by Nehru to become a member of the cabinet. He resigned. But what we want to say that as a country or for Ambedkar as a person, was it right or what was the correct course as far as that choice was concerned, as that alternative was concerned? So there are certain situations in which none of the choices is correct. None of the choices is correct. For example, you are at a loss. Should I adopt history? Should I keep sociology? Should I keep public administration? I should have philosophy? So your considerations are, oh, this subject is now running top. At one time geography had the heydays, sometimes anthropology had the heydays. Sometimes you feel, no, I can have the study material from these people and I have easy access to these study material. Sometimes you feel, no, this I can do this. And sometimes you have a genuine interest. You select a choice, select a subject. and then you find that no, my selection has been wrong. So out of many choices, a situation may come when none of the choices is correct, none of the choices is right. So when you analyze, give only two things. Number one is, one has to be decisive, and number two, one choice is must. These are two different things. Decisive means you must decide something. And the second is that you should have some consideration for picking. Don't be blind. Like the gamblers, without seeing the cards, oh, now I am playing blind. Never play blind. Never play blind. When you are just suggesting things, way forward, be very clear. Suggest that no, anybody, any responsible person, there is a theory of choice. What that means? Way forward is whether you select the right choice or the wrong choice, but evaluate all the choices. Evaluate all the choices. What is good in it? What is bad in it? What is the advantage? What is the disadvantage? Number two, whenever you are selecting a choice, adopting for a choice, go for your heart and not for your mind. What does it mean? You like this. You like this. One of our students, a girl student, she said, I love English literature. We wanted to tell her that see the record of English literature in the last 5 years, nobody has been selected by opting for English literature. She said, no matter, whatever has happened to different people, my choice is English literature. She did it. She did it. So in the selection of the choice, whether it is right or wrong, your interest should count. Your interest should count. The third thing is that in a field where you have some efficiency, in an area where you have some skill, supposing there is history, there is anthropology, there is sociology, there even public administration. If you have some knowledge of public administration, go for it. You will write that go for it. You will suggest go for it because you have some idea. In other subjects you are blank. In this subject you have got some idea. Go for it. And in way forward, you must suggest two things. Never take the choice by copying others. Don't imitate. Never imitate. Since he has done with this choice, I will be also successful with this choice. Never, never, never this should be the choice. And number 5 is, in a choice where your dil is not accepting, you don't have that liking. You don't think so, no, I don't like this subject. Or I don't like this course, I don't like this job, I don't like this place, I don't like this area. Never select that. As far as the conclusion in this essay is concerned, be polite. Be polite and write that human beings, human societies, human groups have a fascination for picking some choices. It's history that very often none of the choices have been right. When USA chose to bomb Nagasaki and Hiroshima, there are many people who advised America not to do this because Japan had been already persuaded by the British Prime Minister to surrender. But the Americans said, no, since they had the temerity to attack Pearl Harbor in our country, the Americans are very brutal that way. Since the State Empire building was attacked, they attacked Afghanistan. They want always to avenge their wrongdoers. Probably this is not the correct choice. This is not. So many people have said that morality, right in the conclusion that the moral consideration should be also one consideration in the selections of options as far as the choices are concerned. So, if we have any questions, and from the Akashvani also, if they have any questions, they can go for it. Any queries? So, actually, as far as essay is concerned, essay cannot be taught. Essay has to be written. Essay has to be written, and my advice is that first write an essay of only 100 words. No need of a teacher, no need of a person to just examine your essay. Simply do one thing, give it to your friend. Never judge your essay yourself. Every person is a narcissistic person, and every person tries to evaluate himself or herself in a favorable way. How I have written, kya shandar likha hai, but you have not written well, and so you should accept it, and you must give it to your friend so that he or she can judge it. Thank you very much.